We are very excited to welcome Laurence to the Liberland Longevity Conference. He went from being an everyday programmer to an entrepreneur and investor, one with a passion, a real passion for applying scientific and engineering principles to create a lasting impact on what we're doing. Now, Laurence represents a real embrace of what we call the scientific method. We all remember that from science class. And he is what you call a techno-optimist. And he's informed, of course, by the great worlds of sci-fi and the world of biology. Now, he's at the forefront of biotech as applied to longevity. And he's been working to extend healthy human lifespans through really visionary projects. Like we've got Vitalia City and Zuzulu Project, which some of us have attended. And he's a founding steward of VitaDAO, and that they are accelerating breakthroughs in health span research, as they say. So he's going to share some insights into building new cities. And of course, the environment in which you live is just as key to longevity and healthy living as is your personal habits with diet and other things. So, and he's committed to advancing life sciences and human longevity. So without further ado, here, Laurence will talk about his mission to bring aging under medical control as soon as possible. So Laurence, take it away.
Thank you very much. Actually, if it's possible, I'd love to see the audience and interact at some point. I don't want this to be just me talking at you, but rather talking with you. And feel free to interrupt anytime. Like I'll have a quick presentation, and then we can discuss more, not just question and answer, but rather actual discussion. Like feel free to disagree and come up with concerns, feedback, ideas, and so on. So I want to talk about accelerating progress in longevity biotech. We need biotech because if we just have the perfect diet and lifestyle, sleep, exercise, all that, we will still age, degenerate, and die. So we need really advanced biotechnologies. And to really accelerate them, we need special jurisdictions. And of course, I'm grateful that you guys are working on Liberland, potentially a jurisdiction that we can actually create what I'm talking about here, a warp speed type endeavor, which is similar to Los Alamos combined with Operation Warp Speed, where we come together with the best experts and create medicine much faster than usual, within a few months instead of the usual decades that it takes to create a new drug. To quote Benjamin Franklin, he was talking about how the U.S. Constitution is established and everything seems to promise it will be durable. Now we'll see with how it goes with the U.S., but he also said, in this world, nothing is certain except death and taxes, and he's famous for that. Well, I'm here to disagree that those things are certain. And we all love freedom, right? It's just you can't have real freedom without freedom from disease, freedom from aging and death. You could be perfectly free on some random island, nobody bothers you, right? But from the inside, you are going to be bothered by aging. And everyone says health is the most important thing, but it's quite abstract. It's a concept that people don't really think about until they have health issues. I consider myself as sort of lucky to have had a lot of health issues growing up. I've spent a lot of time in hospitals. I've had many surgeries all across my childhood, and some recent ones as well. I have all these joint pains. I feel like a frail old person most of the time. And nobody wants to end up like this when they are aged, right? A lot of people think, well, I want to have healthy aging and be able to exercise, maybe run and so on. But still, that's not the best thing. The best thing is this. If you remember the movie In Time with Justin Timberlake, he was presenting here, this is my mom, my wife, and my daughter. And you cannot tell, they all look in perfect shape between 20s and 30s, as Jose was saying. And humans coordinate to achieve amazing things, like putting, men on the moon and so on. And I think we should stop fucking around and cure aging in the same level of coordination as those big projects like Apollo and so on. And DeSci is this idea of decentralized science, which means permissionless funding, execution, and publishing of science. So we, the people, can together, I know as a founding member of this big online community called VitaDAO, we can come together and fund dozens of projects, deploy millions of dollars, with this crypto token that's permissionless. Anyone can contribute capital or work in exchange for Vita tokens, and then vote on funding these early stage research projects, and then spinning them out, advancing them, incubating them, spinning them out as longevity biotech companies. Then one of our projects was ready for clinical trials, and I realized how big of a bottleneck the regulations are. There's this invisible graveyard of people dying, waiting for medicine that could have otherwise saved their lives. It's regulators, I think, have good intentions. They're good people. It's just that the system is set up such that the incentives are to keep delaying and making it more expensive and ask for more and more, because they want to ensure everything is safe and efficacious, but they don't see the harm done by delay, or medicine that doesn't even happen because it's too expensive. So it's the cost that's hidden in that invisible graveyard, the millions of people that are dying waiting for medicine. It's akin to putting the speed limit or having the speed limit at 4 miles an hour, and then whenever someone suggests we should speed up, it's like, oh, what do you mean you want people to die? Well, the thing is, people would die with a small speed limit, right? Because they cannot get to the hospital, you cannot get food into cities, you cannot sustain billions of people population. And there's this idea of voice versus exit, like trying to use your voice to reform. And I applaud efforts to reform, especially applaud now the DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency in the US, where Elon is trying to remove a lot of the bureaucracy in the US and speed things up and so on. But I'm not too optimistic that can be at the level we need. I think we need 10, 40 times faster and cheaper, 1,000 times cheaper. And I'm not interested in 20%, 50%, 80% improvement. It's not enough. Even doubling of speed and halving of cost is not enough. So that's why I'm working on the hedge. I was like, okay, in case over the next decades we still don't see much progress in reforming, at least we will have some places where we can do things faster, cheaper, and also, of course, it's always good to have diversity and experiment, and the rest of the world can watch and learn and incorporate what works. A sandbox where we can have a different regulatory environment. And as a community, we have a lot of leverage. We have legitimacy to self-experiment. It's my body, my choice, and also self-regulate, self-govern, right? Like if we are a group of people living somewhere, a lot of people, right? Like making a city or even a country like Liberland wants to or is, yeah, who are people somewhere else to tell us what we can and cannot do, especially to our own bodies. I also highly recommend watching this movie, Dallas Buyers Club, where a community of AIDS patients came together to solve their issue when the FDA was failing them. I think stories are a lot better at changing people's minds than rational arguments like I'm making. I think people need to go through a protagonist journey, hero's journey, and convince themselves that this is the way to go. So I also started a DAO called Jellyfish DAO, which instead of funding biotech like VitaDAO, it funds movies. And my hope is this is how we can actually start changing the world's mind, inspiring the world about an ageless society, and how amazing that would be. So my dream is that we can have a warp speed effort where we can make drugs in 4 months instead of decades, and on the order of $1 million instead of billions. And new cities have been built before to fix a crisis, like aging is a crisis. So Los Alamos with Manhattan Project, right? They came together to use science and engineering to create something. And also there's this idea of a network state started by Balaji Srinivasan, where online communities like VitaDAO, network unions, can eventually become network states if they crowdfund territory all across the world and maybe gain diplomatic recognition. But this might take a long time. And how do you even get from an online community to something that has diplomatic recognition? So you have this idea, then an online community, and then what's, Vitalik is talking about, like, okay, what's in between? How do you get there, right? And there's like this chasm. And so we thought, okay, let's experiment one order of magnitude further than a co-living space in number of people, and one order of magnitude further than a conference in a duration. So 2 months, we went into Montenegro for 2 months with 200 people. So it's something doable and a great experiment of living in close proximity and seeing what it feels like to live there in Montenegro, where we could actually start a special jurisdiction. So we had healthy food and exercise together, tracked our biomarkers. It was really life-changing for a lot of us. Yeah, we basically had this idea of a pop-up city. So from online community, go to pop-up city, and then there's still, I think, it's not yet a new society. It's not a permanent thing. So what do you do next? We went to Vitalia. So we brought a few hundred people to Prospera in the island of Roatan, where there's that special jurisdiction already, and we can already do clinical trials faster. And that was amazing. And now I'm looking for new locations, working with various other governments to establish similar special jurisdictions. And of course, I'm interested to collaborate with Liberland as well. So you can talk more about potential locations if you're interested. And so how do you get from, so you have this idea of pop-up city, and you can also stay maybe permanently in a special jurisdiction, but it's not always great. So not everyone can travel there and so on. People might not try it out. So the idea with the Zeller City that just is happening, it's about to end now in Berlin, where I am, is that you can bring people together for these pop-up gatherings, a few weeks, like 6 to 8 weeks, 1 to 2 months, let's say, maybe even more longer, in a space in major cities like Berlin. And together, you see if you can seed that as an embassy, as a permanent hub in that city. And so next, there will be Berlin House in San Francisco. It's a coincidence, separate teams for these projects, where there's a 16-story tower where each floor has a focus on frontier technologies, like longevity and crypto and AI and neuroscience and so on, with co-working and clubhouse with like a third space, and then eventually maybe co-living as well. If you want, I can give you an invite later. And then also in the Bay Area, but this time in San Francisco, in Berkeley, there will be Vitalist Bay, which is a gathering focused on more on advocacy, activism, where this one command that like life is good, death is bad, expecting between 2,000 and 4,000 attendees to this. There's an amazing space there where so some people will live together, but some people just visit from the Bay Area and so on. There will be 8 weeks, 8 conferences. Right after that, Bloom City in LA, more focused on the filmmakers, celebrities, scientists, biohackers, and so on, to inspire the world, inspire people about an ageless world. And I also briefly want to say how I'm pitching governments. So, of course, we say we want to build this medical innovation zone. We bring a lot of people. And we have these communities in every major city of people living together, and some of them want to move. So if you allow the kinds of concessions we're looking for, this semi-autonomous zone, then we can build this there, bring a lot of foreign direct investment, a lot of jobs for your locals, bring that talent, build a tier one hospital, and of course share in the upside, dividends, percentage of the ownership, and so on. And lastly, I want to also touch on taxes, how usually when people live together, they came up with this idea of like, oh, let's tax and use that for public goods. Well, there are alternatives to funding public goods. You can build something of value, like therapeutics for longevity. Each one of these can be a $1 trillion therapeutic. Like billions of people might want to rejuvenate and stop aging. Once they're available, just like people usually take antibiotics, I think once these therapies will be available, people will want them. Even though a lot of people right now kind of say, I'm not sure I would want it, blah, blah, blah. It's all coping mechanism, I think, which makes sense. It makes sense to accept that which you cannot change. But yeah, once we together build an environment that allows innovation to happen faster, much faster, orders of magnitude faster, then we can export those goods and use that capital, even use today future proceeds, right? Like when you raise money on equity, for example, or revenue share and so on. You can bring in investment now and use that for public goods to build that and then eventually make that revenue. So I like this idea of exporting value and not taxing your members. This doesn't have when you're a member in any other club, you're not taxed. You pay maybe for some services, but that's it, right? You pay for what you use. Now, of course, churches also like the idea of taxes and so on, but that's just that's voluntary in a way, right? People can voluntarily put in capital for public goods. Anyway, so lastly, I want to leave you with this idea of you have two options. You can join me in curing aging, or you can do some other random fun side project. And with option one, you can do another one after, but with option two, you're dead. So I prefer option one, where you can keep doing random fun side projects. This is the priority, I would say. So I would invite you, each and every one of you can do at least one thing, not just for your own longevity, but to coordinate as a swarm. So I created this idea of a longevity swarm. So please scan this QR code and you can find all the information there. Whenever there's gatherings and so on, I will announce them there. And even if you can only take 1 minute every few weeks, right? You can still help. For example, when there's a big announcement in the industry, to retweet that, to amplify the message and so on. So if you care, at least do the minimum possible thing. And of course, there's levels where you can get more and more involved, change your career, join one of these pop-up cities, eventually upend your life and move to one of these, hopefully Liberland as well. So yeah, I'd love to discuss with you guys. Tell me what you think, what you disagree with, what recommendations you might have, ideas, concerns, anything. Hello.
Yes.
Hello. Yeah.
Here we go. Thank you very much, Laurence. I would again like to ask you for your top three, I would say, non-conventional picks for natural prolonging of life, and top three picks for the artificial or medical prolongments of the life. That would be my question number one, but I have got another one, but I will first let you elaborate on this.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there are 0 interventions proven to extend lifespan in humans. There is some evidence for a few things, like rapamycin has the strongest evidence in every model organism we've tried it in to extend lifespan by up to 30%. And there are no results yet in humans out, but luckily we funded a trial by Brad Stanfield, a YouTuber and doctor, with rapamycin and exercise, and the recruitment is over, the trial is ongoing, and we hope to hear the results for that. And if those are efficacious, if the results are good, then I would take it Right now, I'm not taking it. I'm young enough. And I, of course, do the basics like Jose mentioned, or Ray Kurzweil, Bridge One, sleep well. I'll do what your mother told you. It also makes me feel better, and I'm more productive towards what actually matters, which is advancing the science, advancing the research, the clinical trials. So we have actual therapies that can reverse, stop, or at least delay aging until we get more technology. Yeah, it's not something that I can say works. If you're like for I have, if I would be older, I would try out a lot more things, um, because
Anything interesting in the stem cell or in the gene therapy that you could mention right now?
yeah, I mean, so during Vitalia, because it was a special economic zone where we could do faster trials. There are a bunch of companies that started. Also, Brian Johnson came and did the follistatin gene therapy by Minicircle. We know so the safety trial was completed in just a few months from they started, like with just a few hundred K, and then they started selling it. And the efficacy trial is not yet, so we don't have efficacy data on follistatin, so it might not work. If you want to try, go and try. It's now available in many jurisdictions, Dubai and I think Japan, maybe Bahamas. There's BioViva gene therapies like telomerase, and they might have Clotho as well, and follistatin, I think. Then a company called Unlimited Bio started just a few months ago during Vitalia. They already got approval and started doing trials in humans for VEGF gene therapy, initially on skin, but it can be applied to other organs as well. So yeah, it's fascinating that this is not when I'm talking about moving really fast in a few months and creating these advanced therapies. I'm not talking about some idea that this will happen. This already is happening. We just need to replicate this and make it more legitimate.
Okay, and one more thing. Let's say we actually have a secure space in Liberland this morning. By the way, we actually built up the platform in Liberland, was successfully completed, and it's moving in the Liberland channels. It's one of the extra moves for the settlement. So let's say you have a ability right now on the floating platforms inside of Liberland, outside of any other jurisdiction than Liberland. What would your recommendations would be, and what would VitaDAO deploy there as a first thing, if you guys could basically do anything there, be it controversial or non-controversial research or therapy?
Well, I would love to just bring a lot of people there, and then because I don't like to develop a specific therapy myself. I prefer to create a platform so that other people can come and do everything that's more scalable, right? People who have like that specific interest and focus, they can do those therapies. They can develop those therapies, and so self-experiment, and also create therapies. So all of the things I've mentioned, but also new ideas, and there's so many potential therapies in development in that have already data in mice, but to get to humans, it just takes so long and so much money. Sometimes nobody bothers to do it.
And so right now we have the platforms that are 5x5 in Liberland. You can combine them and build anything you want on them, and they're around 6,000-7,000 euro per platform. So just count with us, please. We are outside of Croatia's or EU jurisdiction, or outside of Serbia's jurisdiction. We're still under some pressure, but we've got a great opportunity to actually start doing some real things. As we, by the way, received this confirmation by the court and by the prosecutor that Liberland is not part of of Croatia's jurisdiction or Serbia's jurisdiction. We got that paper 1 month ago. So again, thank you very much for joining us. I guess we will move on into the program with some live speaker. Back to you, Thomas. Thank you.
Thank you, Laurence. What a great presentation. It's so great to hear that you're on top of all these breakthroughs and innovations and doing it in physical places around the world. You guys, I think you were in Berlin not too long ago. You're active in Prospera and Roatan and Honduras, and with
No longer
Zuzalou.
working. I'm no longer working with Prospero, by the way. And this is the Zeller City location.
Oh, is that in Berlin?
Yes. So it's ending tomorrow actually, and I'm going to San Francisco next.
I know at the beginning you asked if you could see some of the people here. I don't know if we have a camera to turn around and focus anybody, but that's okay. We'll send you pictures for that. So thank you again, Laurence, and thanks everybody. Thanks, Vit, for the questions.